Morning, everybody. Welcome to our Amud Yomi Shiur. We're going to learn today about Avraham Avinu, fascinating facts about the father of our nation. We're going to learn about how angels behave. We're going to learn about Elisha. So many interesting things. You just have to stay here with us. And we are in Vav Metzia Pei Vav Amud Beis. Line starts with the word Raglechem. Omar Rabbi Yanai. Omar Rabbi Yanai, are you joining us? So welcome to everybody here, everybody in YouTube and in Torah anytime. This year's Leilu Nishmas Ovi Moiri Menachem Ben Akiva, Rus Bas Shalom Solvas Moshe Refuas, David Ben Golda, David Ben Mazal, Nina Chai Bas Gula Rochel, and Chaim Ben Sete, and Naama Bas Rochel Rama, Aviva Bas Dvoiro, Besoch Shachol Yisrael, Omar Rabbi Yanai Berbi Shmuel. We're talking about Avraham Avinu, who hosted the three Malachim. It's not clear at what point, if at all, Avraham Avinu realized that the Malachim were not Arabs, but actually Malachim. We have here Baruch wrote a very nice piece on this episode in the Torah about Avraham and the Malachim. A very nice thing. I want to share it afterwards with you by email. Yeah, and I hope you'll understand it. I'll mention your work as we go along. Anyway, Omer Rabbi Rabbi Shmuel, Omru Loi. The three Malachim told him, "V'chi ba'aravim chashedetonu shem mishtachavim." Yeah. No, actually, we should go back to the line before. I'm sorry. No. Yukach namad. Go up one line. We quote from the Torah. Yukach namat mayim. Yeah. Let there be some water brought. Water should be brought. V'rachatz raglechem, and wash your feet. Why did he want them to wash their feet right away before coming to the house? We all learned that in Gan, or maybe later on in life. Yeah, it's very famous, very well-known idea. Omar Rabbi Rabbi Shmuel, Amuloi. The angels told him, "V'chi ba'aravim chashetotonu." Do you take us for Arabs? Shemishtachavim le'avar raglehem. You thought we were Arabs that bow down to the dust of their feet? Is that so? In other words, Avraham Avinu, on his high level of chesed, shouldn't have suspected them. Very interesting. We never learned that in Gan. Yeah. In other words, he shouldn't have thought that they're oived of the zora of the dust of their feet, and they are rebuking him. They're giving him, they're retorting, and they're saying, "Kvar yotza mimenu Yishmael, yotza/yetza Yishmael, who's your firstborn, who's your child, came out of you. He's the one who's going to do that." You're suspecting the people coming to your house, yeah, and they had the feeling of maybe chas v'shalom. I can't say that, as if Avraham Avinu is holier than thou. So maybe there was a little bit of discomfort on their side. So they said, Ishmael, who came out from you, is going to be mishtachava himself to the dust of his feet. Hard to understand. This is Avraham Avinu. One thing we see for sure, and I'm being a little bit, practical, balabatish over here. You see many times people, and sometimes frum people don't realize that, and sometimes you stand on either as a host or a guest, you host people and you host them very nicely, but sometimes you give them the feeling, my house is frum, and you should, you're not as frum as I am. You know what I'm saying? And that's a very painful thing, the host people are less frum, but they're giving the feeling you can eat that hechsher, but not me. I was actually, I experienced that once as a child. I'm sorry, I don't want to stand here in the soapbox right at the beginning of the year and giving my childhood experiences, but I will mention it. There was a kid in my class, and that kid was the frumest kid in the class. He didn't have the best midos, but officially he was the most brakish kid in the class. And when you'd come to his house, he would say, that cheese, we don't eat that, but you can eat it. That was a kid, I'm not blaming him. He was 8 years old, yeah. But till today, you have the feeling, yes, Avraham Avinu, chas v'shalom, I'm not comparing, but and he, of course, Avram didn't want to bring Avodah Zarah into his house, obviously. But that little bit of feeling gave them the permission to tell him, Yishmael will come out of you. You think you're that? Yishmael will come out of you doing exactly the same. Fascinating Ben Yoda. Thank you for reminding me. The Ben Yoda says, what's the story about Arabs? Well, not today they're Muslims, but back then, why did the Arabs have this shtus of praying and bowing down to the dust of their feet? Unbelievable pshat. Never heard that in my life since gone till today. The Ben Ish Chai says like this. The Ben Yoda says like this. He says that every time before the Aravim would actually go on a real journey, would travel, yeah, they would go to a base of a Dezora, the house of a Getchke, to an idol worship house, pray to the Avodah Zarah, yeah, and then they would take the Avodah Zarah. I don't know if they actually was physical or they believe the spirit of the Avodah Zarah is walking ahead of them. Lahavdil Elfa Avdol is the opposite of the Amud Eish Amud Onon, yeah. They believe that Avodah Zarah is walking ahead of them, and they're like, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 meters behind it. So all the dust was already trodden upon by the Avodah Zarah. Get it? So whatever they walk with the dust on their feet, the Avodah Zarah was there before. It's like one car driving before the other. Yeah. So they believe that the dust they're treading on was already trodden by the Avodah Zarah, trodden by the Avodah Zarah. That's why it's holy in their eyes. And that's why they would bow down to them. Big wow. Yeah. Anyway. Let's continue. Hashem was seen to Avraham Belone Mamre, the first pasuk that starts off Parshas Vayera. He would sit by the opening, the door of his tent, by the heat of the day. Why is it relevant that it was hot? The Torah is not not the news. The weather today is 25 degrees. Why does the Torah have to tell me that it was very hot? It was Avram's third day after Bris Mila. That's very, very painful. The man was how old? 99. HaKadosh Baruch Hu came to do what? Ask Avram, how are you doing? HaKadosh Baruch Hu took out the sun from its case, meaning super, super hot, something really hot. So that tzaddik Avram should not exert himself, should not work too hard to get guests. Obviously, we know that. Shadre Eliezer lemepak lebora. So he sent Eliezer. He himself couldn't go out. He was by the door of the tent. So he says, okay, I'm not feeling well, to say the least. I'll send Eliezer, my faithful Eved, to go out to the field, to go outside and see, to the desert, to wherever, to see if people can come, if he can find guests and bring them over. No fuck, he went out, Eliezer, didn't find anybody. Why? It was too hot. Nobody was outside. Nobody could stand the chamsin, and everyone was home. Omar, lo meheim lalach. Avram told Eliezer, don't believe you. He told me nobody's outside, I don't believe you. I guess Avraham Avinu knew that somebody's out there. I know the Amri Tamon. This is what they say there. What's there in Eretz Yisrael? In Eretz Yisrael, they have that saying, Leis emnusa be'avdi. Yeah, there's no trust in Avodim. Avodim you cannot trust. Avodim are not trustworthy. We saw before in Halacha that the very, very vast majority, if not all of Avodim, are thieves, dishonest people. Avodim, you can't trust. Even Eliezer, unbelievable. Eliezer was such a great man, very interesting. I don't understand. I didn't see any Perushim here in the Gemara how Avram said about Eliezer. I guess Avram meant even Eliezer, who was relatively a tzaddik out of the Avodim, even he cannot be trusted. And, I want to see for myself that there are no guests whatsoever. Maybe he thought Eliezer was so good that Eliezer lied in order to help Avram not work hard. Maybe that was the idea. Maybe Eliezer means well, but I don't believe him. He's trying to cuddle me to whatever, make sure I'm fine. 1 second. No, fuck you. So he went out by himself. He himself went out. He didn't trust anybody else. Yeah. Oh, he saw Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Kai above him. In other words, the Kadosh Baruch Hu went and stood there, whatever that means. The Shechina Kadosh, Hashem's presence was there above, by the door of the tent. Hainu, yeah. So now I will stop here and listen to your questions, and then, yeah. Okay, so we had some nice comments here in the break. You said very nicely that in the Midbar was just the opposite. The Aravim, they pray to what they believe was trod by the Avodah Zarah. Right, that's a dust. When the Aaron was walking, so to speak, traveling in front of Bnei Israel, there was no dust by the feet. So any bad habits they had from the past, no chash of praying to the dust because there was no dust. Very nice. Let's continue. And for now, I'll just continue. We don't have much time. I want to finish what I got it is today. Okay, let's continue. This is what it means when it says, Why did Avraham Avinu have to tell HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please, please, don't go out, don't go away, don't pass, don't leave your slave? That's what Avram asked the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So now, we know the Pshat, and this is the Pshat that Rashi says, and that Pshat is in Shabbos, Kuf Chav Zayin mentioned by Tosfos, Avraham Avinu asks Hashem, hey, there are guys coming. You see my 3 guests are coming. Hashem, would you hold it, please? Otherwise, be a chutzpah, right? If you, let's say, a big minister would come here, somebody choshev from the government, yeah, and you tell him, wait, Mr. So-and-so, I want to chat with my friends in the coffee room of the kollel, and then I'll come back to you. Chutzpah, no way, he's not going to let us build a building, right? Mashenken b'Kadosh Baruch Hu is such a nova, Hashem did not mind that Avraham Avinu let the orchim in while letting a Kadosh Baruch Hu wait, standing Hashem up, kivyochol. It says, to have guests is more than the Shechina. However, the Gemara over here has a different shot. The Gemara here says something else. It says the Gemara, since he saw a Kadosh Baruch Hu that Avraham Avinu was in such pain, he would like bandage the wounds of the Milah, and then, Shari would unbandage them, or maybe just hold it with pain and then, release. It was so painful, he'd have to deal with the wounds of the Milah. Omar, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu obviously coming to teach us, Hashem said, Lav urach ar l'meikamocha. It's not derech eretz, not exactly tactful to do bikur cholim when the chol is in such a situation. Is today my day for soapbox? Yes. In other words, you go to a choile, be tactful, don't visit him in hospital while you have 3 doctors and 2 nurses and tubes and this and that. It's not the time. Go out, come another time. You have to know when to visit the guest. Don't wake him up, for example. And this is what it says. Another pasuk is now being explained similarly. We saw 3 people. He lifted his gaze and he saw 3 people standing upon him, and then they were standing upon him right next to him. And then then he ran towards them. What do you mean he ran towards them? They were there. Where was he running? Yeah, were they there or not there? Answers the Gemara, Meikaro originally also kamu. They came and stood over him very close. The 3 malachim, yeah, they looked like flesh and blood standing right there on top of him. Once they saw that he was in pain, he was in anguish, they said, guys, it's not the right time. Lav orach ar l'meikamocha. It's nish derech eretz. It's not the tactful thing to do to stand over here. Here we start with the Baruch stuff. Maniu shlosha anoshim. Who were the 3 people? Who are the 3 people? They're not the 3 wise men. No. Yeah, who are the 3 people over here? I'm sorry. That are mentioned. No, I said they were not. Yeah. Who are those 3 people here? Lavdil, Michael, Gavriel, Rafael. Yeah, this is one opinion. There are other opinions, but the Gemara over here says that 3 malachim were Michael, Gavriel, Rafael. Why particularly those 3? And what did each one have to do? Michael shebo levaser et Sarah. Michael came to let Sarah know, to give Sarah the good news, and Avram, that she's going to have a baby, the unbelievable miracle. Why Michael? Michael is our man. He's our ambassador up there. Michael is the star of Chesed, and he's the personal star of Klal Yisrael. Even though Klal Yisrael of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one are being over there, but Michael is the Malach, particularly in charge of Klal Yisrael. Makes sense. He's there to make sure that the nation actually continues. Yeah. Rafael, Shebol Rape Savrom. That's an easy one. Rafael is Merape. Rafael is a Malach of healing, right? They say a good doctor has Malach Rafael now right next to him. Yeah, so Rafael came to heal Avraham Avinu from the wounds, from the Milah. Gavriel is a tough guy. Gavriel went there in order to be Hoifech Sdoim. Gavriel was there in order to make sure later on is going to destroy and turn around and actually destroy Sdoim. Gavriel is always the Malach that punishes. Midas Adin, Gvuro. Gavriel is the one who made sure Vashti had the tail. Gavriel is the one who castrated, what's his name, Potiphar. Gavriel killed all the people right there that were too complacent with Yana. Gavriel is a tough man. Gavriel started Rome. Shabbos Nun Vav Amud Beis. Gavriel is the one Shlomo Melech married the Bas Paroi. Gavriel is the one who went and made the stick called Italy, Rome, in the middle of the sea. Yeah, the boot. In other words, Gavriel is a Gever. Don't start with Gavriel. You don't want to meet him in a dark alley. So Gavriel is the one who went to turn over Sodom. You have a question, which Baruch has the good question. If so, why did Gavriel have to come to Avram's house, right? He could have joined them later, right? No? What's the answer? We'll see it in the, yeah, there are answers, yeah? The Maisa, Avraham Avinu, maybe knew that they're Malachim. Avraham Avinu saw Gavriel with the other 2, and figured that Sodom will be destroyed. Although Hashem told it to him later, Hashem said it to him later, but right from the start, the destruction of Sodom hashkafically started with Avram having Yitzchak and Avram knowing that Sodom will be destroyed. But there's much more to say about it, and I'll send you later Baruch's beautiful words of Torah. Preg the Gemara, you're telling me Gabriel is the one who came and destroyed Sodom. V'aksiv ve'vo shnei malachim Sodoma ba'erev. Yeah, it says in the evening, 2 malachim came to Sodom. 2 malachim. Why 2? You just told me Michal did the job. He can go back to Shemaim. Yitzchak is about to be born. What else? Rafal, Gesundheit. Avraham Avinu is healthy. Only one guy is needed now. Gabriel. Who is the second guy who came to Sodom? And says the Gemara, the Ozon Michal Bahadei. Michal had now a second job, and Michal went together with Gabriel l'shizve leloit in order to save Lot, to salvage Lot, to save and redeem Lot from Sodom. That was the job of Michal. I thought of an idea, by the way. Michal is the one who's supposed to make sure the continuation of Klal Yisrael. Why is he saving Lot? Moyav Rus, very good, Rus, because Amon. That's true. Na'amo hamoinis and Rus hamoavia. Lamaisa, that came from Lot. So Lot being alive is really also the continuation of Klal Yisrael through the back door. Very good. So now Tosfos asks the question. Daikanami, 1 second. And it's meduyak also in the posuk. You can see it in the posuk. D'chtiv v'yafoich esaorim ho'el v'yafoich in singular. He, only one malach, turned over all the 5 cities of Sodom. V'lo ksiv v'yafchu. It doesn't say there turned it over. He turned it over. Shema mina. This is what we see from here. One malach actually turned over Sodom. There's a lot to say here about the fact. Tosfos asks the question: how can Michal do 2 things? Right? Michal is doing, first of all, he's making sure that Yitzchak, that there's a promise about Yitzchak, and then he goes to save Lot. The famous a concept in the Medrash, it says, "En shnei malachim, en malach echad osa shtei shluchos." One malach doesn't do 2 jobs, right? Yeah, and also 2 malachim don't do 1 job. Why? Explains the Maharal. Malach is a job. Malach means malach is no personality and also an action. I'm a person and I do many things. I talk and I drink and I this and I play and I run around. But a malach is not a being and an action. A malach is an action. A malach is no other essence or substance besides the action he does. So one malach can't do 2 things. Yeah, it's a stir and obey. It's like saying I'm Akiva and I'm also Moshe. It can't be, right? Therefore, how could he do 2 shlichuyos? One simple answer, and unfortunately we don't have time to delve as much as I'd like to, but Lemaisa, there were 2 jobs. First of all, what did he do? He went to make sure that Yitzchak will be born. He gave the good news. Gendik, that's the other one. Mazel tov. Now he went to Sodom to help Lot. That's the second job, right? So Lemaisa, there were 2 separate times. Another explanation. There's 2 separate actions. Thank you. Okay, right. Okay, Sarah, I'm not going there, but yeah, fine. Now another answer. Tosfos brings down. You can look in Tosfos yourself. Tosfos says there's also another medrash that says Rafal is the one who saved Lot. Yeah, Rafal. In other words, Michal is out of the picture. Rafal is the one who was Merape Avram, and Rafal is the one who saved Lot. Refuah, salvage. Yeah. So now it's not 2 separate jobs because it's all the same inyan. It's the same idea. Yeah, to give good news to Avram. It's like a disease not to have children, and then he saved Lot. It's the same kind of thing. Tosfos continues more and more, but unfortunately we don't have much time. There's definitely much more we can see. I highly recommend you go through the Dvar Torah, which I'll send you later from Baruch. We don't have much time for questions, but a little bit because we didn't yet start today's Amud, by the way. Maybe. Anyway, weiter. They did what they had to do. Weiter. Frag the Gemara. Why is it? What's the difference that regarding Avram, the Chsiv, it says about Avram, once Avraham Avinu invited them in, they right away accepted the invitation without any hesitation. It's different. It says by Lot, yeah, he really begged them, really insisted, he insisted, he persisted, and only then they listened and came into Lot's house. What's the difference? Yeah, big rule. With all respect to Lot, it was not as great as Avram, didn't even begin to be as great. And therefore, Misalvin, to refuse and not accept an invitation or a suggestion, you do that to a koton, to a regular person, a small person. But a Godol, a great person, no, let's say Bashlich Tzibur, I don't have to but they say Shlich Tzibur, yeah, they ask you, can you daven? You're supposed twice to say no, and then but the third time to agree. But if it's a Godol who asks you, you're not supposed to refuse. The Rov asks you to do something, the Rov of the Shul, you listen right away. A regular guy is something else. Yeah, quick. Yes. Steve, more about Avraham Avinu and what we can learn from him, and let's get going. The Ek Chopas Lechem. What did Avraham Avinu offer them? What was his original, invitation? What did it say in the menu? I'll take some bread. That's all he promised. I'll bring you some bread. Okay. A sandwich, peanut butter? No. The Ksiv, and later on it says, Velabokaratz Avram. He ran and gave them a Suda that proportionally was greater than Shloimeh, right? Avram ran to the Boko, 3 Lashonas Shel Chardal, stuff. What's going on here? Amar Belazar, yes. That's a very well-known one. The tzaddikim say little and they do a lot. People who speak a little bit, they don't have grand promises and things. They say little and they do a lot. That's a tzaddikim. That's Avraham Avinu. Explain the Chroinim. The idea is also when you invite someone, if you invite him and you promise him too much, he may feel bad. Going to be torech so much for me. If I'm inviting you for a 7-course dinner, the guy's wife is too tired, you're not going to come. But if he invites you for just a sandwich and then he gives you more, wow, that's beyond expectations, and you both enjoy it. But if he promises a lot, you may not want to come. And Avram wanted them to come. What about the opposite? Continues the Gemara. Rishoim, the wicked ones, big talkers. They're showing talk and promise and build castles in the air and projects and stories and shtusim. At the end, they don't do anything. Minolan, how do we know that? Me'efroin Echiti, another interesting character in the life of Avram. Meikor Ksiv, originally it says, the what? How much did Ephron ask the land for? Originally 0. Then he suddenly went up to how much? 400. Eretz Abamo is shekel kesef. It says how much money is Ephron asking for the land? Regular 400 shekels. Shekel is the second highest matbea in the Torah. That's a lot of money. But well, there's even much more of an increase. Avram listened to Ephron. Avram weighed the money or the silver which he spoke in front of Neches. 400 shekel kesef. So far, so good. Ephron asked for 400, it's giving 400. No. Oiver lesoicher. What's oiver lesoicher? Oiver lesoicher is something that is negotiable, something that is in the market all around the world. The lo shokel mine ela kanteri. In other words, kanteri is like a century in English is 100. Yes. Or cien in Spanish or English means in French and Spanish means 100 times over. In other words, the type of shkolim that at the end of the day he charged were much more expensive, which much more worthy. It's basically like saying, very easy example, 400 shekels. Can you pay in a supermarket in Australia the 400 shekels? I don't think so. Oiver l'serchi means it's an international currency that is worth much more. Yeah, in this case, 100 times more. In other words, let's say they spoke about 400 shekels, and then it was 400 pounds all of a sudden, dollars or even pounds, something much more international and much more worthy. That was Ephron's trick. The 400 turned into 400 this. In Jordan, whenever they talk to you about money, you never know they said dollar or dinar. They do it on purpose. Yeah, like they trick you with the money, with what kind of currency they want you to give them. That's one of the tricks. Yeah, dinar is higher than dollar. Yeah, but you think one, they do it on purpose. I noticed many times. Dika duchta Aravim. Dika duchta. In some places, the karle letikla kantera. In some places, they call shekel kantari. In other words, the century, the 100, which comes to tell you that it's internationally renowned. In other words, that same matbea in certain countries is called that way. How do you say shekel in Papua New Guinea? They probably don't know what it is, but they know what dollar is. You get what I'm saying? The fact that that currency has names in different places in the world shows, as a simon, that it's accepted everywhere and it's much more expensive, much more worthy, high kind of stronger kind of currency. And that's what Ephron charged at the end of the day. So Ephron went twice. Interesting, the Gemara doesn't say that he went from 0 to 400. That the Gemara doesn't mention. But even within the 400, that he said, just 400 shekels, and then he asked for 400 high shekels, that point was already much more of a lie. Interesting. Yeah. And that's already promising a lot and doing very little. He promised him a reduction. There was no reduction at all at the end of the day. Weiter. Ksiv, it says, Kemach, yeah, it says about the what Avraham Avinu asked Sarah to bring the orchim, bread, cakes, round kind of bread. And what did he tell her? Kemach soiles. He mentioned both kemach, which is regular flour, and soiles, which is very fine, nice flour. What's going on here? Ksiv kemach, uksiv soiles. It says both kemach and soiles, both were commanded by Avram. What did the Rome ask her to do? Regular flour or fancy flour? A woman usually is more miserly with the guests than men is. The woman knows the budget of the kitchen. The man is a yeshiva bocher, just got married, wants to invite 20 boys for supper. Why not? He used to do the till now with the wife. She actually runs the kitchen. She knows what can be done, what cannot be done. And therefore, you should know, but the Meforshim say the man should be aware of his wife's limitations and not order/invite too much. That's why they explain. I think the Maharsha says he told her both options, kemach and soilis. As far as I'm concerned, give them soilis. I understand you may only want to give them kemach. So the husband has to be considerate with his wife and tell her, I'd like to have a fancy meal. If you can't do that, give my guys from yeshiva something smaller. See another pasuk in the Torah, in the parsha there. Lushi vasi ugos. It says, no, go ahead, please knead the bread and make. Ugos is not a cake, a sweet one from the bakery. It's a round kind of bread. Ugos, laug is a round bread. The ksiv, and then it says, what did they eat at the end of the day? They had the dairy entree, the first course, a nice dairy, yogurts and stuff from Shavuos, and then chema, butter and milk, and then they had the meat. Where's the bread? The bread he did not bring in front of them. Why not? He asked her to make bread. The bread doesn't seem to be part of the menu at the end of the day. Where's the bread? Where is the dough? Omar Ephraim Miksho, Talmido Shel Rabbi Meir, Mishmei de Rabbi Meir, the Talmid of Rabbi Meir, quoting Rabbi Meir, says, Avraham Avinu oichel chulin v'tahara hoyo. Avraham Avinu was a tzaddik. With the Gemara in Yom Chavches Amud Beis says, Avraham Avinu kept all the Dorabonons. Interestingly enough, it's so unbelievable in the Achronim that Yitzchak and Yaakov not necessarily followed that. But Avraham Avinu, the father of our nation, he followed all the details of the Rabbanon down to all the Chazonish, Brisk, Chumrah. Everything he did. Yeah, it says the Rav Tchumin, the Rav Tavshilin, everything Avraham did. It was on such a level that even his regular food, which is not a korban chulin, he would eat betahara. Yeah, we know that in the times of the Mishnah, the chaverim, the very machmir people, the good frum people, they would make sure that even the food that has nothing to do with kochim or truma, they would eat it betahara. What's betahara? Not touched by nida, by sheretz, by mace. Now nida is an issue. Avraham Avinu basically told Sarah, hey, hold it, you can't bring us the bread. Why not? Sorry Meinu, oisayom pirsanida. Sorry Meinu, that day, she was pirsanida, she had her what? Menstruation, yeah? She had the nida because she became young again. So all of a sudden, in the middle of kneading, boom, the blood came. So as she was kneading the dough, she became in that situation, and therefore all the dough is tomeh. If you're not Avraham Avinu, beseder, you can eat. If your wife is nida and she bakes for you, today we don't keep tahara. Yeah, she makes challah, well nida, beseder, accepted. Mashain can, if the guy or if the man is ochel b'tahara, it cannot be served. Let me ask you a question. I also have questions. Can I ask a question? Yeah. Now, Frecht, I'm asking, so what? He thought that they were Arabs, maybe, according to some. So why can't he serve them the bread and not eat it himself? Right? Tell Sarah, hey, Sarah, please bring the bread to the Orchim, and they will eat it, and I won't, because I am more machmir than them. He didn't want to do that. That's my own opinion, yeah? In other words, to serve something to the guests which you yourself are not eating, even though you can say, you guys are not keeping it, yeah? The whole difference there between Jew and non-Jew was definitely much more blurred. Yeah, there was no before Matan Torah. If they eat something and they know he's not allowed to eat it by his own standards, That again shows some level of what? Of condescending. Okay, right? That's my idea. That's my chiddush here. Avraham Avinu didn't want to do that. That's Ledaiti. Weiter. Now, the Maharsha says something interesting. Lemaisa, they only promised her to be young later. Yeah? But she was Paris Nida already before. In other words, but it was based on the future promise. That's the whole thing. Let's continue. They told Avraham Avinu, where is Sarah, your wife? Where is she? Where is Sarah? And he said, here she's in the tent. What was this conversation about? Yeah. What was this about? Yeah. Loidia. They wanted to show him, Avraham Avinu, Shesari Menu Tznuah Hoiso. In other words, they wanted Avraham to see, look, Sarah is all the time in the tent. She doesn't go out unnecessarily, not even to welcome the guests if she doesn't feel it's the necessary thing to do. And that is a good midah of Sarah that they wanted to show Avram. Look, she's even more tzanua than other women. Interesting. More tzanua than others, Rashi says, because she's indoors and it's better for a woman to be in her house. It's always, the Rama says that in Shulchan Aruch, you know that? The Rama says that for a woman, it's always good to be home. Not the woman is not allowed to go out, but to be home is more of it's a better thing for a woman. The more she can stay home and less she can go out is a good virtue. It's a good thing for a woman. And therefore, sorry, man, it's nice. And they wanted to show Avram, look, your wife is so tzanua. On the same idea, the Gemara says similar but even stronger. Some say that Rav Yitzchak said that. Malachim know everything. They have X-ray vision, right? Of course they knew she was in the oil. Where else did they think she was? Yeah, in the club. Of course she's in the oil, obviously. So what are they asking questions? What is this all oil business? Oh, to show him love, to cause him to love her more, to increase the love of Avram to his wife right before Yitzchak is born. That was the idea. And that's all the madrichim, all the marriage counselors, they all say, yeah, young couple, you have to tell them, oh, she's so nice, he's so nice. Yeah, he's 99 years old. He's Avraham Avinu. Says Rabbi Socher Franz, says Rav Volbe, even a 99 years old needs to be told your wife is good. Yeah, you always have to increase Shalom Bayis and work on your Shalom Bayis and help other people in Shalom Bayis all the way till the age of 99 and beyond. Yeah, there's never end. It never ends. Rabbi Yosef bar Bechanina Omar, in other words, the Malachim, the greatest one of the Malachim, the guest, is the one who makes a bracha, the head Birkas Hamazon. Avraham Avinu would teach people how to bench, and they would bench with what? With a cup of wine. Yes. And therefore, since a woman gets bracha of having children through what? Through the cup of wine. Normally, the husband, Mishagil Kosher Bracha, sends his wife the kois, she should drink from it. When your wife is neither, you're not allowed to do that. But otherwise, the kosher bracha, let's say you're the one benching, there are 10 people, kosher bracha, and you give it to your wife to drink, that is something very kosher for the wife. The malach gave it to the wife, to Sarah, so he had to ask, where is she? I want to be meshagi, I want to send her kosher bracha, I have to know where she is. So they sent it to the kitchen, to the oil, where she was, and she got the bracha from the wine of the malach. Tani mishum Rabbi Yossi, more in the same. Yeah, the Tana quotes Rabbi Yossi. Lama noku the ayoy shebe'elov. If you look in the psukim, yeah, it says elov, the yomru elov. What's elov? Him. They told him, ayasor ishtecha. If you look at the pasuk, the letters Aleph, Yud, and Vav, how many letters are in Elav? Aleph, Lamed, Yud, Vav. 3 out of 4 letters have a dot on top of them. Yeah, Elav. Aleph, Yud, Vav, there are dots on top of it. What's the story of these dots? What's the story about? Lama nokud al ayoy shebe'elov. Now, what's ayoy? Ayoy means where is he? Ayesora, where is she? Ayo, where is he? Oh, lim the Torah derech eretz. The Torah wants to teach us derech eretz. Rashi explains that whenever there are nekudas in the pasuk, it means that the pshat is weaker and the drash is stronger. We're coming to say some drash here, and it's coming to tell me sheishal odam achsanya shaloi. In other words, a person in Achsania, when you come to be hosted by someone, yeah, you go somewhere, you go visit the States or England, and you want to stay by a friend for a few nights, it's very accepted by Jewish people, Mikam Chesroel, and then what happens? You can ask, and you should ask the man, where's your wife? to see that you care about his wife, and vice versa. Ask the wife, where's your husband? That's where there's ayeh and ayoy. Where is he? They also asked her, where is Avram? Interesting. Yeah, now why? I don't know. To be mechabev, that's to show that they care. Frag the Gemara, and here we're entering dangerous halachic zone. Frag the Gemara, Vomer Shmuel, and Sherlin Bishlam Isha Klal, you're not allowed to ask about a woman at all. What does that mean? In other words, there are two potential prohibitions when you talk to a man about his wife. You have to be very careful with the lachos of tznius. It's Shulchan Aruch, Even Ezra, Siman Chaf, I think Chaf. It says what? You're not allowed to ask a man about his wife. It's lo tzanua. In other words, there are two explanations here. Explanation number one is that you can't give. No, you can't. I'm going to explain it soon. After we get to the answer, then I'll explain the whole thing together. But the question is, you're supposed to ask, you come to your friend's house in Golders Green, I don't know, Reuven, and his wife is Prince Abela, of course. Are you supposed to say, Reuven, oh, where's Prince Abela? Is that so? Shmuel says, you're not supposed to ask, where's your wife, about your wife. It's not sanua. Answers the Gemara, alidei balo shiny. If it's done through the husband, it's different. What does that mean? There are two ways of asking about a wife. There is asking, how is your wife? This is halacha l'maaseh, guys. And there is asking, give regards to your wife. Oh, so now, to give regards is also completely, even through the husband. In other words, you meet Reuven in the street, in Golders Green, in New York, in Lakewood, wherever, and to say, regards to Prince Abela, regards to your wife, that's also. Why? Because even though it's through the husband, you're creating some kind of connection here, potentially unhealthy connection between you and an Eshes Ish, that's also kol sheken through a friend. Let's say you meet your cousin, female cousin, you talk to her a little bit, and you tell your female cousin, send regards to your friend Sarah. That's not allowed. Sarah is not supposed to get direct regards from a man because it's too romantic halachically. Yeah, it's too much of a connection here. So what's the business over here? Alidei bayla shiny. Here the Gemara says that there is something you're allowed to do through the husband. That is asking, how is your wife? And that is allowed. If you see a man and you're not giving regards to her, which is really direct, you're asking him about her. You're asking, how is your wife? Yeah, that is allowed. Maybe even praiseworthy, what? If it's a guest. How's your wife? She prepared the food, she prepared the bed, she's not around. How is she? That's nice to ask. You're not sending her regards. You're not creating connection between you and her. But to ask, how is the wife through somebody else is also osur. Wow. To ask your cousin, how is so-and-so, that is not sanua. Weiter. Oh, here, Sarah Meinu all of a sudden is like surprised. How could that be? And she wonders, and she says, Achre bloisi, after I'm already all worn and torn, I'm already old, baleh, I'm already all worn out. Hoiseli Edna. What's Edna? Edna is idun, beauty and pleasure. Omer of Chizda, Achar shenisbala haboso, the rabu hakmotim. After the flesh already became all worn, the rabu hakmotim, wrinkles. I'm so much full of wrinkles. This adin aboso, the flesh became nice and fresh and young again. But this pashtu hakmotim, and all of a sudden the wrinkles are all gone or all ironed, as they say today, anti-aging, anti-age. The chazar yofilim koimoy. Yeah, the beauty is back to where it was. She didn't believe it can happen, but that's really what happened. By the way, the word Edna, it's a mistake of some English speakers, and my soapbox again, Edna does not mean Nida. I heard somebody, quite a knowledgeable guy, and that's the real Edna means very good, you're smart. Edna is beauty and also like pleasure. Ma'adan is a delicacy. Right. Also in Hebrew, it's a name. Edna is a word in Hebrew. And he goes, how do you call the girl Edna? It's Nida. Edna is not Nida because it's a sad mistake. Because she was young and Edna, full of Edna, of young, vibrant beauty, she also was Nida. If she was like 20 years old, she has Nida. That's a side effect, yeah? But it doesn't mean Edna is Nida. That's time. I'm just getting this out of, if anybody had that in the system. What? Steve, Ba'adoini now continues the Gemara to a very famous idea about lying. When are you allowed to lie? Steve, it says, Ba'adoini Zoken, she, Sarah, said, can I be young again? And my master is old. Avraham Avinu, how can he function? How can he be a father? He's so old. B'ksiv. But when Hashem tells over and relates what Sarah said to Avram, Hashem quotes Sarah to Avram. It says, "Va'ani zakanti." He says, why did Sarah say that Sarah is too old? Hashem did not moisiv. He did not repeat her words word for word. Hashem changed from the words that she said. Hashem Kivyachol didn't say the truth, and Hashem is all truth. Oh, Tana Devel Bishmael, the famous one. Godol Shalom, the peace is so great, peace between husband and wife especially. Shafila Kodesh Baruch Hu, even God himself, Shina boy. Hashem changed the words of Sarah as if not to insult Avram. If Avram would know that Sarah said, he's an old man, that would create some rift between Avram and Sarah. Hashem changed the words of what Sarah said in order to create peace between them. Shneimar, it says, "Vatitzchak Sarah b'kirba." Sarah left in her innards, "V'adoni zoken," and she said, "My master is old." Uksivem Hashem al Avram, "V'ani zakanti." And then Avram, Hashem said, Sarah said that Sarah is old. Why did Hashem change from the truth? To keep the peace. And the Gemara in Sanhedrin, Kuf Zayin Amud Beis, gives other examples with Shmuel and Shaul, quite a few places. Hashem himself told other people, or himself changed the words. Now, again, some people take it as a carte blanche of lying always. They always lie, and they say, you're allowed to lie for the peace. You have to know when yes, when no. Ask your local Orthodox, Poisek. I'm saying, but conceptually, when you know things are going to create rift between other people, don't always be so sticking to the truth. Yeah, be a bit diplomatic and be, change a little bit just to maintain peace. It's more important than being so exact and yakish word for word. But Toimer now continues the Gemara to quote Psukim from the Yeira. The Toimer, Sarah said, "Mi milel laVram, eini kabonim Sarah." Mi milel laVram. Who'd have ever believed lemalel to say? Who'd ever dare saying to Avram, "Eini kabonim Sarah," that Sarah would be able to nurse, breastfeed bonim. What's bonim? Sons, children. Correct the Gemara. Excuse me. Kama bonim inika Sarah. I thought you had one child. That's what I learned in school. Why do you speak in plural? Why does it say Sarah nursed and breastfed children, babies? Why? Only one. Why? Interesting. Okay. Omar Rabbi Levi. The Gemara says a different answer. Omar Rabbi Levi. The day the Yitzchak was weaned from Sarah, he stopped breastfeeding. Yeah, either 2 or 3. They said that's a makor for like chalake or things like that. That's some kind of idea there. But the Maisa, there was a big party, also Seuda Gdoila, when Yitzchak Avinu, already was big enough, was post-nursing stage. Then Avram Avinu made a Seuda Gdoila. He made a big meal, a big feast, a banquet. Everybody there, all the goyim around would meranen, would badmouth, would badmouth Moshe, Avram Avinu and Sarah, and they would say, "Ra'isim zokan v'zkeina." He saw these oldies, an old man and an old woman. Sheviu asufi min hashuk. They brought a foundling from the market. They brought a baby that they found, in the streets of Rio de Janeiro. They found a kid in the streets, and they say, "B'neinuhu," and they fake it, and they say, "This is our son." Anybody can do that. V'loy oid. What does it have to do with a big banquet? El shoisin mishta godoil. They want to cover it up, so they make a big feast, a big banquet, la'ami divrayim. You have to cover up for what they say. In other words, the Meforshim explain, it's not so accepted to do a party when you win your baby. Today they do a party for everything, not just bris pidyon, chalake, everything. They do a fancy suda in some places in the world. But when the baby is, stopped with the bottles, you make a meal for that. Why are they making a big meal for that? Well, what's a big party? They're dafka trying to cover it up, that it's not their own son, it's not their biological son, by making too much of a do about it. Ma osa Avram Avinu. What did Avram Avinu do? Avram Avinu wanted to prove everyone right, everyone else wrong, actually, to prove himself right. Holach v'zimin kol gdolei hador. Avram Avinu, to that meal, to that feast, he invited all the gdolei hador, all the great people of the generation. Sarah Imenu zimnes nesherseim. Sarah Imenu invited their wives. He invited the men, she invited the women. They call achas v'achas avia b'no ima. Each one of those ladies had a young baby. I guess Sarah, planned it that way. Each one brought the baby with her. Yeah, they wrote an invitation. Children are welcome. The children were there. She did not bring her wet nurse with her. Very common profession, we know it from Ksubas, was for ladies to do what? To feed other people's children. So those fancy ladies, they had their own wet nurses. They did not bring them along. Oh, they did it on purpose. They wanted to corner Sarah and see if Sarah will be able to nurse the babies. Benasa nes b'Sarah Menu. Sarah Menu was a miracle done to her because she stopped nursing already. That was her, and still v'niftechu dodea k'shnei mayonos. Her breasts opened like two springs of motherly maternal milk. Ve'nika eskulon, and she breastfed everybody. Dafka Sarah Menu, even after Yitzchak was already weaned, she still fed everybody from her own body, from her own, because to show everybody she is the real mother of the real baby. That's not enough. The bad tongues, they work hard. People would still talk and chat against Avraham Avinu. The Oimrim, im Sarah abastishim shono Taylor. That's a partial. It's almost a quote from the pasuk. And 90 years old can give birth. Okay, maybe. Avram ben Mea shono yoilid. Avram is 100. Even worse, maybe the baby's not his. She's the mother. Okay, we accept that. What can we do? Maybe Yitzchak is a mamzer, right? Because maybe he's from who? From Avimelech. That was before. Maybe Sarah had business. Paro Avimelech. Maybe miyad right away. Nepach cluster ponim shel Yitzchak. Yitzchak's face, Yitzchak's facial features, the cluster, the portrait, the facial features of Yitzchak changed. V'nidmela Avram, it looked exactly like Avram. In other words, some say it changed miraculously. Some say it was right from the start, but Yitzchak looked like a spot, image of what? Yeah, of exactly the same as Avraham Avinu. Finally, at the end, they admitted, and that's the first pasuk in Toldos, and they all said, Avram Yitzchak. Avram is the one who fathered Yitzchak. At the end of the day, everyone had to admit that. Now comes the Gemara with another issue. Ad Avram, now Avram and Yitzchak look exactly the same. What's the difference between them? Avram is older than Yitzchak. Oh, that's not so simple. Ad Avram, until the times of Avram, lo hoya zikna. There's no such concept as old age. Now, the Meforshim explain, of course, the person was less able when he was old, such as Avram not being able to have children. However, they didn't look old. They looked young. They all got stuck at, 30, 40, no white hair, no wrinkles. Yeah, it was all looked very nice. Lo zikna, people are not old. Man da'ava boy lemishtai ba'di Avram. Then when people would want to speak to Avram, mishtai ba'di Yitzchak, they would talk to Yitzchak by mistake. Avram and Yitzchak both stuck at the age of, I don't know, they all look like, let's say they're 40, right? Everyone, they want to talk to Yitzchak, they spoke to Avram. Ba'di Yitzchak, mishtai ba'di Avram, the other way around. People want to talk to Yitzchak, they spoke to Avram. In other words, Avram and Yitzchak were very, very different in Hashkafa. Avram was Chesed, Yitzchak was Din, and nobody knew who was Avram and who's Yitzchak. They looked so much alike. Also came Avram, Bo Rachmi. Avram Avinu asked Hashem's mercy, the Hava Zikna. Avram is the one who asked the Kadosh Baruch Hu to bring what? To actually bring old age to the world. Shenema Avram Zoken Baba Yomim. Yeah, Avram was an old man. Zoken Baba Yomim. Avram Zoken. Mashma was a chiddush by Avram that he was the old one. He was the first person in history who became old. My question is, it's not so simple. I have a question which I don't have the answer to. I'm not sure historically when it happened that Avram asked to become old and look old. L'chor only after Yitzchak was born, right? But then by Sarah, before he was born, it says that she had wrinkles. So that's not so simple. I don't know. Maybe just white hair. Maybe white hair is a different. I don't know. It's actually a question. I don't have the answer for that. Ad Yaakov, let's continue. And maybe different male and female. Maybe women would get old and men not from some reason. Could be, maybe. Ad Yaakov lo have the chulsha. Until Yaakov Avinu, there were no diseases in the world. Doctors, they have no job. Until Yaakov, there was no chulsha, no weakness, no diseases. B'chlal. Also Yaakov came. Bo rachmi v'ave chulsha. Yaakov Avinu wanted to become weaker as he goes along, even a bit sick before his death, before his demise, in order to prepare himself for the death. Shenemar, v'yomer Yosef, yeah, he said to Yosef the shliach, Hine avicha choyle. Here, behold, your father is sick. Wow, it's a big chiddush. Your father is sick. Now the Chizkuni says, if you remember by Ishmael, it says Ishmael was sick, he had fever, right? And then right when he was sent with Hagar. So the Chizkuni says, of course, people, if let's say they were hit by a truck, they would be hit by a truck. If somebody would cut their finger, yeah. Or if the sun would, really, how do you say, hit what? Sunstroke. If the sun struck someone, it would get sunstroke. In other words, natural disease like chas v'shalom cancer didn't exist, or things like that, or all these diseases. Yeah, lamaisa, something like a person weaker and tired would be more, or thirsty would be sunstruck. That would happen. Yeah, or maka mamish, like somebody would hit his friend with an axe. He would be injured. Injuries would be there, but not makla. Continues the Gemara. Also Elisha. Oh, now we're going to learn about Elisha the prophet in the same context. Elisha was a Talmid of Eliyahu Novi. Also Elisha loy hava dechalish ve'itpach. Till the times of Elisha, there was no such thing as somebody becoming sick and ve'itpach. Itpach means healing, getting better again. In other words, either you were sick and you would die, or you wouldn't be sick at all. But sick and then getting better did not exist. The word roifim in the Torah refers to people who would mummify, like rofim were not doctors. Rofim were people who would mummify the old Egyptians. Maybe you want to try and do that? Sure. Yeah, so that. Right, okay. Oh, good. Mashe'en ken, to be sick and get better again, that was a chiddush in the times of Elisha. Also Elisha came, Bo'arachmi ve'itpach. Elisha asked for mercy from Hashem, and he got better after he was sick. Shneimar, it says, Ve'elisha cholyo es cholyoi asher yomus boy. Elisha, he fell ill, became sick, became ill, asher yomus boy. The choli, the disease which he died from. Oh, michlal, that is to say, the choli achrisi. Mashma, that there was a special thing by him. He had other diseases whom he did not die from. Mashma, that there was a concept beam of being very sick even and getting better again. Again, we're not talking about somebody, this finger cut, chalila, or sunstroke. Yeah, somebody who's very sick and getting better again, such a, almost miraculous thing. That did not happen until Elisha. Tanu Rabbanon. More about Elisha. I don't know if we have time or not. Let's continue. Shloisha choloin cholo Elisha. There were 3 times in Elisha's life when he got sick, and the first 2 times were punishment for all kinds of things he did. Echad shedochva leGechazi b'shtei yodov. Gechazi, no time to talk about this Rasha. Gechazi was Elisha's first-hand man. Gechazi was a person who asked Naaman, the South Tzava, the general who came from Naaman, from Aram. He came and Naaman was Metzia. He got better because Elisha told him, go to the Jordan River and dip yourself 7 times inside, and he became completely well. Such a miracle. And Elisha insisted on not getting any money. Jews are not supposed to be, money, mongers. And then Elisha ran after, and Gehazi ran after him and took a lot of money with the whole lie. He lied, and he did a lot of other averas. And Elisha saw in Ruach HaKodesh that Gehazi was misbehaving big time. And Gehazi apparently had a lot of other averas, women and stories and money and theft. And yet, at some point, Elisha said, hey, mister, that's too much. He pushed him, I don't know, physically or mentally, with both his hands. And on that, the Gemara says, no, even if the person is seriously off the derech, says the Gemara, Kuf Zayin Amud Beis Sanhedrin, La'olam tia small doicha v'yamin mekareves. Push him away with one hand and mekarve him with the other hand. Yeah, in other words, always leave the door open to the person, even though it's very antagonistic. They say this very much about children. Yeah, in other words, always give him the way back. And Elisha didn't do that. Yeah, so that was one avera, and he got sick as a result of that, as a punishment. The echad, the other disease, shegira dubin betinoikos. Yeah, in other words, after Elisha worked a miracle, there was a place with very bad water. Elisha threw some salt into the water. The water became, of that river, of that pond, nice, sweet again. Then some youngsters started cursing him. And they said, Elek you bold one. They started screaming at him because these boys got money from bringing sweet water from other places. Now that local place has sweet water, they lost their parnosa. So Elisha looked at them very harshly, and he gave them a klala, possibly, or maybe the look was a klolo. And then came bears from the forest, and 42 children died from 2 female bears. And that was a miracle because the bears were not there before. So the Maisa Elisha wasn't stop being vindictive. There was a reason why he did that, because Ramivazik Kvot Shamayim, the cursed the Novi, and also they say their mothers all became pregnant in Yom Kippur, and he knew that they had relations in Yom Kippur, so they all a result of bad relations and all that. He knew that these kids would never have any future, and yet the fact that he cursed them or had a hard look and they died, Hashem punished him for that, in spite of all that. The Echad Shemes boy, the third disease of Elisha was his death. Shenemar, Elisha choles cholyoi, asher yomus boy. So Elisha became sick with the kind of disease that he died from. Let's not finish with death. Let's finish with something nice. Tomorrow we're going to continue the Gemara, the Mishnah, and then the next Mishnah. The previous Mishnah told us about pas and kitnis. Don't promise your workers too much food because that would take you to no end. But according to this opinion of Rabbi Yossi, really you should just tell them, I'm giving you pas v'kitnis. I'm giving you bread and some legumes. I'm giving you the minimal. Thank you very much. Thank you for staying with us, and thank you for watching us the entire week. Bezos Hashem. We're going to go back to halacha tomorrow. The party's over, but it's going to be very interesting, the halacha. More about workers' rights. Atzlacha Rabba. Have a great day. Thank you, everybody here in Avos Shalom, YouTube, and Torah Anytime. Thank you. Go ahead.